accidental, really. So in 2012, I had been working for a charitable sector company in Birmingham. And I love my job, I love what I did there. And I'd sort of gone up through different roles there. And I was at a point where I was acting up. And I knew I was going to need to have to interview if I wanted to secure that position permanently. So I wanted to have some interview experience because I hadn't had an interview at that level ever, or an interview at all in 8 years. So I had a look around and I'd seen this job at Coventry, and I looked at the person's specification. And I thought, okay, I could do that. I could put pen to paper and justify that. So I applied for it, not thinking in a million years I'd get an interview, or if I got an interview that I'd be appointable. At the end of the day, they called me, offered me this job. And I remember thinking, oh, okay, that's not part of my plan. That's not what I did this for. Okay, I'm a bit surprised. And so I took the job, and I'll be really honest, I've never really looked back. I think before then, I didn't really see where my career path was taking me. But having found a job at that level, and with a really supportive line manager at the time who appointed me, the then academic registrar, I was just all of a sudden realised what HE and what professional services in HE could offer you as a career path. I'm hooked in registry. I really love everything that registry has. So yeah, it's been, how long was that Coventry? I was at Coventry for 9 years. And then obviously now I've moved to Arden University. But yeah, even when now looking for a change of career, a new challenge, I didn't look outside the sector. I wanted to stay in the sector. And I encourage anybody that comes into it to see it as a really, massive career area that you can develop into lots of different ways. So my current role is Head of Registry Services at Arden University. And I did start, this is week 4. At Arden's a smaller university than Coventry. And what attracted me to it was its growth and its ambitious plans. And so in some ways, on paper, it is a sideways move that I've sort of taken, but it's a conscious one. Because at Coventry, I was very much as a faculty registrar, and I did that across 2 faculties during my time there. You have a depth of experience with the roles and responsibilities you hold, and you are very much a specialist in all of that area. However, because it's such a big organisation, you don't get a lot of exposure to be perhaps in the more generalist stuff that falls outside of your very specific function and area. So yeah, I've had the opportunity at Coventry to work on lots of university-wide projects and things like that. But that's what you do. You join them, you don't lead them, you don't get involved in those necessarily. You still hold your main job and function. And so with Arden being that smaller institution, what I'm hoping will be is that I'll have more of that breadth of experience, because we are smaller and we will be, the team are perhaps more generalists in everything they do, because they're smaller teams and they're covering lots of functions. And so I'm hoping to have a bit more of a generalist experience here and gain that breadth of knowledge that registry has. And every registry is different functions fall within different registries in all institutions. And so I'm hoping for that exposure as well. So I wanted a new challenge. I'd have stayed at Coventry if something came up, I think. But then upon reflection, some things are just not meant to be. And there's often sort of reasons for that. There's an aspect of, there was nothing coming up above me at Coventry for me to take the next step up. Part of me thought I could stay and try and wait out for one of those roles and do some of the things in the meantime. However, I would only ever know Coventry and Coventry's registry services and Coventry's ways. And as well as connected you can be through the AUA and have those conversations with colleagues in the sector and try and understand, you don't really understand it until you walk in those other shoes and see that other side completely and immerse yourself in it. I've been looking for a long time. I've probably been looking for a year for something, but it needed to be right for me. So I didn't want to be commuting. And I think COVID has helped that. I have a young family and I'm sort of the main link to the children and being able to get them from school and stuff if anything goes wrong. So I didn't want to be commuting an hour and a half to an institution. And, at certain levels, there are expectations that you will need to be where you need to be for your job. And so, I was perhaps restricted geographically as well. But then I waited out, and like I say, this job at Arden came up and I really liked the sound of it. And as I went through the interview process, I really liked the process actually. They have really good recruitment tools and stuff they use. It was a really enjoyable process, and it was all online as well, which is the first time I've ever done an online interview. And so, yeah, I had a really good feel through that process for the culture of the company and things like that. And I asked about the whole flexible working to make sure that that is something I was going to be able to sort of maintain, because that's what I had at Coventry. So I don't want to lose that. And they were like, absolutely, that's the sort of company they are, and true to their word, that's exactly what my experience has been so far. Well, it's early days yet, because like I say, it's only the start of week 4 this week. However, I like where they're going. So there's a lot of investment going on. There's a lot of projects, and that was, explained to me as part of the interview process. And for some, that might be perhaps a bit daunting, that there's that much immediate change initiatives going on. But to me, that's quite exciting. I can see the investment. It really looks like it's in all the right places. There is, resourcing staff. They knew I was an AUA branch advocate at Coventry, so they were sort of waiting for me to come and bring my AUA hat to Arden. I've already got 3 colleagues going on the PG Cert next month, rather, October. I've exposed some of the colleagues to some of the the demystifying project management courses that are coming up and things. So yeah, so there is just the culture and the sort of the vision and the change projects that are coming on board are really exciting. I think at Coventry, I knew that we were going to go to agile working in some way, and I knew that I didn't want to commute anywhere 5 days a week again. I think the benefits of home working, partially home working, should we say, like a blended approach, are great for working parents. I don't know what it's like from other people's perspectives, but the aspect of having that extra time in your day to achieve that work-life balance is invaluable, and I'm not sure I could ever forego it again. And so working at Arden through the interview process, I did ask about flexible working and agile working, what that looked like. And so, we talked about there's no expectation for staff to be into the office about a minimum or a maximum. I mean, we don't have a campus to manage is one of the big differences between Arden services and, say, Coventry University or traditional university services. But so we have our centres, and there are staff who will need to be at those centres to support our blended learning students. And they have been throughout in some variation. Your general office-based staff aren't being demanded back to the office in any way. It's a really flexible approach, and that's what was told to me, and that's what I said. Okay, that's good. That's what I want. And so I'm really happy with sort of 2 days in the office. I go in sort of 2 long days around the children's childcare, so that I can meet people and I can have those impromptu conversations. And being the new girl, I can get to know people, because I've lost that network from Coventry that I've built up over 9 years, knowing who's who and how things work and how teams work together and things. I have none of that. And it's going to be a challenge developing that with a company who has so much home working. So I like to go to the office to at least kind of start to build some of those relationships up, and see whole people, not just this much of people and things, which is really nice. So yeah, it meant a lot, and Arden were very clear about that, and that did help me make my decision in terms of it's probably the right move for me right now. I think it's don't stay in one role too long unless you are really having value added in that role. So you're having a lot of exposure to things, you're constantly learning and being challenged. The minute it becomes a little bit too stagnant, you might have outgrown that role. So don't be afraid to acknowledge that feeling and look for something else. And whether that be, like me, a sideways move or the next step move. What I hear, and even as I was leaving Coventry and people were talking about my vacancy that was being created, going, oh, I couldn't do your role. I'm like, why? What's the perception? Why do you think you couldn't do my role? And I think people have this perception that, because you're at a certain level, you can do that role because you have something that they don't. And I really don't think it's any of that. I think there's an element of, I have a young family, and I think the further up you get, sometimes it is a bit difficult to manage when you start getting to sort of senior levels of management and things. It's not impossible though, and I think you have to be really clear about your work-life boundaries and what you need to do to sort of maintain and protect and look after your family, but what you need to do your job and do it well. And I think you just need to hold those boundaries firm at time. And sometimes you have to say, no to family commitments, and sometimes you have to say no to work commitments because you're balancing it. And it's a difficult job, and you don't always feel like you make the right decisions at the time. But I think if you acknowledge that that's what you have to do, as you perhaps want to grow in your roles and you're thinking, I'm not sure I can do the next step, then, you know, it will be fine. And you don't know everything about the next role. If you knew everything about the next role, you'd already be in it. You go to the next role because you bring maybe 25-50% of the skills and knowledge, but at the same time, you're possibly looking for 50% of the development. And that's why you do it. It's not because you have all of the tools and skills. You're going to get them as you go. It's that you are the right person to be able to gain those skills, to gain that experience, and to carry off the job at the same time. And also, I remember going on an AUA course called Aspiring to be an Academic Registrar. I'd just come back from my first maternity leave in 2016. And one of the speakers, Sharon Harrison Baker, really passionate speaker, and she talked about her career and how she had got to be, at that time, an academic registrar. She's now a registrar at the University of Hertfordshire. And she talked about every job she came to, from sort of, you know, a young teen going out to work and finding her place in the world. Every job she went, why not me? So, and that mantra kind of resonates with me now. And that's what I say to other people who have doubts. Why not me? Why not you? What is the barrier that you think you have that you wouldn't be able to do that role? And so that's probably, of all the things I took away from that course, that mantra, and that has stayed with me as I think about things I might want to do and think, but why not me? You know, and I would pass those words to anybody else in that, and say, just stand for a second and think, why not me? Personal career-wise, I quite, you know, a few years where I am, but I do have my eye on maybe a deputy academic registrar or academic registrar's role in the right institution in the sort of not so distant future. But yeah, sort of, you know, a few years down the line, I would like to be looking to see what is out there in terms of those sorts of opportunities. So, you know, being open. So knowing that you go through your phases in a job, that you learn it, you become confident in it, you change with the institution's changes, and you seek new challenges and training and development with lots of opportunities through the AUA and other sort of sector membership organisations, and make sure that you grab all of those, and then, you know, there's never a dull day if you kind of operate like that, for me anyway.